Corbolic V2. This is a super safe and effective natural anabolic. Not only is this product going to help you increase protein synthesis, which basically means muscle recovery and growth, it also may inhibit myostatin, which is a protein in your body that is known to inhibit muscle growth. This is a complete natural anabolic that works through multiple different pathways, has multiple trademarked ingredients. If you are a natural athlete looking for that edge, Corbolic V2 is what you need. Get yourself some.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pro Physique Code. Today we are going to hit a big topic. How can you get better for your next show?
Yes.
I'm turning that positive because what was the way you framed it, Lexi?
So yesterday I was just kind of like thinking and brainstorming topics, and the way I phrased it was, let's see, I just kind of this wasn't official, but I said you didn't place how you wanted dot dot dot. Now what? Because I think this is a perfect time of year to talk about this. I know we had Universe this past weekend, and I mean, I'm sure there were plenty of girls that went into that show thinking they were going to get their pro card, and then maybe they didn't place the best, or maybe they placed their worst placement ever. And I think, that's the reality of being a competitor. It's going to happen to you at least once. And I think that it's important to talk about what do you do after that, right? Because some people, they look at that as like, oh, I suck, I'm not cut out for this sport, and then they give up the sport, right? Whereas you can also flip it into a different script. So it's kind of what we're going to talk about today.
How to improve your
Yeah,
placing. That is basically the topic.
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times too, someone's first time in a national show is a big eye opener for them, for a lot of people. Not just on the quality of athlete that's there, but how the show is run, right? How many people are there? I was talking to another pretty well known coach who coaches a high level, and he he doesn't coach a ton of bikini girls, but he had one there, and he went up to me and he was like, "How do you even get around back there? Like, how can you even walk backstage?" He's like, "That is like, it's giving me anxiety even being there. It's
Yeah.
so many people back there, all crammed, nowhere to sit. And it's not like there's no room either. There's lots of room back there. There's just so many people. And that can be a big eye opener for people, right? Especially if you're a newer competitor and you have a bunch of people in your ear saying, like, oh, you're going to go win a pro card. You're going to win a pro card. And then you walk out there and it doesn't happen. Or let's say you don't even get a first call out. It can be a big, big, big eye opener for people.
And I think part of it too is like a lot of these girls at the national level. I mean, not all of them, but a lot of them they've won an overall, right? Like, so let's say you win an overall at a show, you're on cloud nine, and you kind of take that momentum, you take that positive energy, which is great. And then you go to nationals and you kind of have almost that same expectation of like, oh, okay, I'm coming off of an overall. I'm gonna get the overall this show too, or get my pro card. And then let's say, you got an overall 2 weeks prior, you go to the national show and then you get last call outs. That can be a bit of a gut punch to somebody, right? And I think that's where a lot of athletes get really discouraged. And I think that's why also all of us as coaches, like we've all said this before, but just because you're nationally qualified does not mean that you need to be going to a national level show, right? We're all three very upfront with our athletes of like, hey, even if they're nationally qualified, if we don't feel like they are ready for the national level, like we're going to be upfront with them because, I don't think there's any worse feeling than leading an athlete on and then them to go to nationals and invest all that money and time and to step on stage and be like, whoa, I should not have been up there.
Yeah, and I think it's how many. I know this has happened to me, so I'm sure it's happened to the both of y'all, where you'll have an athlete be like, I don't know how this is going to go. Like they're good, but like I don't think they really got a chance to win an overall. Next thing you know, they win an overall, and then you have some athletes. You're like, oh, she is good. She's dialed in. This is going to be good, and she may not even win her class, right? Because it all just depends on who shows up and who is there. So you can win overalls.
And the judge. I was at a show
Yeah.
last year, and I'm not going to say names of shows or judges, but if you were there at the show with me, you know how disappointed I was in the judging of this show. A couple of my competitors that I thought were lights out were put in like third or fourth. And what's funny is my athlete ended up winning the overall of that show. And I was still freaking pissed. Not because the girl that won because she was clearly the best one, but because I thought I should have had a lot better placings. And then some of those athletes were so upset they didn't compete after that. And I thought, man, this judge has wrecked the confidence of a few competitors. Because, that's one thing as a coach, we are very in tune with the standards for the division. And when you tell a competitor something or they don't understand why, and I had to say things like, hey, listen, a different judge on a different show, you might have been the overall winner. I know you got second in your class, but this, it just would have been different. So yeah, like there's a lot of factors about getting on stage that you don't control that can make the sport difficult. And if you don't have thick skin, yeah, yeah.
Yep. And we've talked about this too before. I think it's more difficult for people that find success early and do well early. And then the first time they kind of get punched in the mouth, and not everyone gets punched in the mouth, but most people do.
Well,
And
and
when that
so,
happens, how do
so
you handle it?
before we get on the podcast, guys, for those that are listening, we have little conversations. We talk about how things are going. One of the things that, I just noticed was that because what Evan's saying here is that people that have a lot of success early, they struggle when they do get punched in the mouth because you will. Um, Everyone does. Laura Lee
Yep.
did. Janet Leung did, right? Everyone, even the girls that just dominate early on, they eventually hit a wall and they have to fight through it. And Laura Lee and Janet both fought through it and got their Olympia titles. Not everyone has that same ceiling, but I'm just using that as an example. But this weekend, and the thing that it's weird to say when you're a coach who really wants his athletes to get pro cards, but they're giving away way too many damn pro cards. And these girls, I think we just discussed, they gave away 16 open bikini pro cards this weekend for 130 something competitors. So you're taking more than 10% of the entire national field and putting them in the pros where they're no longer going to be competing at the national level. Now they got to go compete against the pros, and they are not
And
ready.
yeah, and
They're not. Um,
there's a number of them that it's they're going to need 3-4 years off seasons to even be able to
and are they
be
even going to
close.
like the sport at that point?
Yeah.
Right.
Like when I first started coaching, I remember girls would be so excited to be first call outs,
Yep.
nationals. Like that was a big deal. Like that was winning. You didn't have to get a pro card. Now, if you don't get a pro card, I feel like it's a waste.
Mhm. I mean, and we were even talking about up there too, Paul, about like the Fed model division, right? And them giving out a top two in the open for Fed model. I don't know why you would give out top two in the open at this
Well,
new
I
division.
think
I
the
don't.
reason they're doing that is to fill up the pros so they can have shows next year. But what they don't, I agree with you, Evan, because pro cards are, you can transfer them to any division. So all current bikini pros can drop down and do fit model. So
And
they
I think
have
there's going to be a
plenty.
fair amount that do that.
Oh gosh. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It was funny. I think it was last night. I fell down like a rabbit hole. I was looking at some old shows from years ago and I found one and I was like, whoa, I was reminded how big some of those classes used to be. Like we always joke about the sea of 16, but like there was, gosh, 20 plus people in some of these classes of shows I was looking at. I was like, wow,
You talking
that's,
about nationals?
yeah, yeah. I mean, more than that in some classes.
Well,
Yeah.
the peak for because I have all the numbers here because I was just importing some numbers. The peak for Universe was 232 in open bikini. This year there was 137. It's almost 100 less competitors. I mean, it's significant and they haven't adjusted the pro cards. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Like you giving out 16 pro cards out of 232 women, you know. And then like at nationals, the one year I went, 276 competitors was the year that Lauren Miller won the overall. She had more than 45 in her class.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're like, okay, you give out two pro cards out of 45 people. That's not a terrible number because
No,
those two were good. Um, but you give out two pro cards. I think, Evan, we saw there was one class at Universe with eight,
I think there was 8. Yeah. I
two
want to
pro
take the
cards
numbers
and
again.
eight girls. Like that's not,
I almost feel like I don't know how they would do this, but or how they would like regulate this, but I almost feel like they should do like a percentage. So like wait to like have a hard cutoff date for when athletes can register, have the total number, and then do some sort of like percentage based pro cards. Because if it's, I mean, gosh, if they're fixed on like giving out two pro cards per class, and then you have a
yeah,
class that has eight,
Yeah.
like
yeah.
that,
I don't think,
yeah.
I don't.
Class cl- Class F had 16, Class G had 8, and Class H had 14. The shorter classes had significantly more
Yeah,
people, but even
D and E were the
Class
big
B
classes. Yeah.
Class B had 13.
Yeah. Oh, and don't forget, guys, this includes crossovers, which is usually about half of the class.
Yeah.
Was the 35-year-old, the 40-year-olds that were like, hey, I can do open too. And I don't know if there was anybody that won pro cards in open and masters, but it happens quite frequently because 35 is not masters. I think the 35s were almost as big as open, some of the classes. 35s
Yeah.
were pretty big. So like, that's probably where women peak muscularity wise is in their mid to late 30s. I think that's when they're at their best. Um, if they've been training for 15 years and so those divisions are stacked. But yeah, so it's just interesting how the shows are going
Yeah.
because I don't want to see competitors go through the cycle of competing so quickly that they lose
Yeah.
because what's been so great about the NPC in my coaching career since I started 15 years ago coaching athletes. I used to coach a lot of people in the natural leagues. And if you get a talented athlete in a natural league, they'll go in their pro card their first show. They'll go compete for a world title in their second show. And I had a girl do that. She won an overall in the NPC, won an overall in the OCB, went to the Orton Cup and won it the next year. And then I think she was kind of like, okay, now what? Right.
Yeah.
Whereas with the NPC, what it was like you win a novice, then maybe you get like top 3 in the open. The next year you come back, you win the open, but you don't get the overall. Then you get the overall, you go to nationals, you get first call outs. The next year you come back, you go to nationals, you get top 5, or maybe you win your pro card. It was like this, you know, I think we were talking about the young lady that won the overall at St. Pete, Evan. She's from your area. That was like her third show and she turned
Hmm.
pro. And since what? April. So from April
April.
to
Yep.
July, she went from first
Never competing.
competition to
Yep.
pro. And so, I mean, it's awesome. Obviously, she's very talented. She looks great. But at the same time, you want to go, now what? It's going to be a
Yeah.
significant difference between
Yeah.
where she's at and what she's going to be stepping on stage against. And I'm sure she'll be fired up for this improvement season. And she's got the talent to be competitive.
For sure.
But the other 15 girls that turn pro at Universe, are they all going to have that same fire? I don't know.
Yeah.
And it also, like, not for nothing, but when you take away, like I always say this, when you scrape off the top 16 at a national show, the next national show suffers.
Yeah. It does.
Imagine if they only gave out like 2 pro cards at Universe, which heresy, right? Oh my gosh. But imagine those 14 girls then go to USAs or then they go to nationals or then they go to North Americans. Now you've got some thick lineups, you
Even
know.
if it was just class winners at this point. But we did see something interesting on the fit model side. Brittany, the girl from Tampa, I guess, has been competing for a long time. She got second in the over
Yeah.
40, second in the over 35, but then won her open class,
Yep.
which
Yeah.
you don't
Congrats.
see a lot of times
Her.
happen
Yeah,
like
she
that.
actually lives in I think she lives in Bradenton. So she's a little south of here, but
Okay.
I've been following her for a while and I know she's because she used to be like a former WBFF. Actually, I think she probably listens to this. I think she does. But I know she used to be in the WBFF and then some stuff happened with like that federation and then she came back over to the NPC, did bikini last year and then did fit model this year and I think she did USA's. Yeah,
Junior
and then
USAs, she was there.
yeah. Yep. And then she got her pro card here at Universe. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
congrats.
she
She's
just
been
kind
out
of
there
got
though for a long
unlucky.
time.
The girl that was in her master's class. So in masters they only did 2 heights. That
Okay.
young lady won the over 40 and the over 35 overall. So she just
Yeah.
ran into the best competitor. But when she went to open, that girl was in a different height class. So Brittany won.
Ah,
So that is pretty rare, but
Yeah. Because you're
and
right. That one girl won. I'm sorry, Paul. Go ahead.
I was gonna say the reason being is like, so say you're in the over 35 bikini and you do open, that's the same height classes. But right
Yeah.
now with Fit Model, there's enough difference. She got that 1 inch. She got, and I think she probably would have got second anyway if that girl was in her class because she won her class. So
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, it's good for Brittany because she's a good soul. She's been around the sport a long time, and I know this was something she's been really
well,
chasing.
and like
And that's what's awesome about this, right?
right,
Is
right.
that's what's great about this.
I love to see that. Like I honestly, I don't know about you guys, and this is not to discredit people who get like their pro card quickly, so to say. Because who knows? Sometimes it looks like they're getting it quickly, but who knows? They could have put in 5 years of hard work before they even started competing, right? But like, I think it is so cool to see people like Brittany who have been, at it for years and years and years. They haven't given up. They've taken the feedback, they've implemented, like, she's a true student of the sport. And it's really cool to just see people like that
Mhm.
continue to go on and get their pro card. Like, I love to see that.
Yeah,
And there
listen,
was
I
a
think if the talent is there and it's not going to deter them from competing, because don't forget Daraja got her pro card in like 3 shows, but she also won her pro debut, beat Ashley Kaltwasser in her second show, and was 13th at her first Olympia out of 50 girls. So like there is that trajectory for some people, and but the bikini division, it's kind of progressed to the point where it's not, you can't just go to nationals and go to the pros and be
yeah,
successful. I'm trying to remember the last time we had a competitor do that.
Ali Vadhauer probably.
Well, no, no, no. So Nade, who I coached in 2023, she turned
Okay, yeah, yeah,
pro.
yeah.
She turned pro early in the year, and then she got Olympia qualified and like at the Daytona show, I want to say in August. So she actually turned pro and went to the Olympia her first year competing.
Mhm.
Ali
She
turned
competed for a while
pro,
before.
and
Yeah,
then she got like a second to Ari when I was coaching Ari at Nashville. I don't think she qualified for the Olympia her first year.
I
I
don't
think it
think
was
she
the
did. You're
next
right,
year.
but
I think
she found good success her first year
yeah, yeah,
for
yeah.
sure.
And even like someone like Jordan Brandon had a
Yeah,
great rookie season, and I think she may have even gone to the Olympia her rookie year. But like that, even the people we're talking about are at least 2 years removed.
yeah.
So anyway, it's just the only thing that I worry about is competitors getting kind of disillusioned with the sport,
Mhm.
um, because
Yeah.
it's easy. Like you and I know, Evan. Like you looked incredible at your last show, but it's very defeating when you can look that good and feel like you don't get noticed because the division is just insane at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
And
actually,
his
I'll go for it, Evan.
another example I wanted to bring up kind of from Universe is one of my clients, Kelly, in her master's class over 35. When she walked out, there was a girl next to her. And as soon as that girl walked out, I go, well, we ain't winning this. Like this girl was heads and tails above everybody in that whole class. And she won her class and she won her pro card. And then, it was some little disappointment for people because they're like, this was this girl's second show. And I go, it may be her second show. That girl has been training like a bodybuilder for at least 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years. She had
Yeah.
so much muscle and so much glute. It was not her first time in a gym training. Like that, her girl had been going at it forever, and someone came to her and said, "You really need to compete." And as she
Right.
did, and became really
Yeah,
successful at
there
it.
are those
So,
unicorns that literally just go to the gym and love the process of going to the
yes,
gym, but have no intention of competing.
yes. So that happens a lot of times too with these quick rise to fame. Oh, they turned pro in 3 shows. Yeah, but especially if they're over the age of 30, they've probably been training for quite some time before that.
Yeah.
Quite some time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. There's always more to it than that may meet the eye. So yeah. So, and I actually saw, a quote this morning. It was, I don't know what account it was. It was this like, it's this bigger bodybuilding account that's been posting a lot of these like quote posts on Instagram, but they were talking about like redefining what winning is. And I think this is really relevant to like bring up to competitors because I think so many times we look at a win as like, okay, did I get first place? Did I get my pro card? Did I get the overall? Right. And and I get it. Everybody wants to place well, right? But at the end of the day, sometimes zooming out and also redefining the win as like, did you improve your package from the last show? Did you bring your all-time best? Did you improve on a physique level, right? Like that sometimes within itself is a win. Or like winning could also be defined as like, how much did you overcome during that prep, right? Some people go through some really dark stuff during
Yes.
prep, that maybe they can't plan for and they make it through that. And just getting on stage within itself is a win, like with everything they overcame, right? So I think it is important to like kind of zoom out and remind yourself of that too, because I do wholeheartedly believe if you are a competitor that is so laser focused on just that placing, you're just, I don't think you're going to enjoy the sport as much as you could. You're going to just lose sight on the process and get so in your head about that placing. And let's be honest, you could go to one show one weekend and place one way and go to a completely different show that same weekend with a completely different pool of athletes and a different judge. in place differently, right? Like you're never going to be able to control the people that show up, but you can control bringing your all-time best, and that should feel like a win within itself.
Winning is bringing the best physique that you can bring. I know that sounds like a bunch of horseshit, but it's not. It's bringing the best physique that you can bring. As like I said earlier, I've had girls win their classes that all honestly had no business winning a class. No
Right.
business. There was just no one there. Then I've
Yeah.
had girls that haven't won their class that it broke my heart they didn't win their class because they had a unicorn that walked in there and
Mhm.
beat them, right? But you put that girl in any other show, she's probably going to win. So winning doesn't mean anything based on the medal. Unless you're talking about like a national show, then yes, and you win a pro, like there, at least there's a tangible thing to it. Um, but if it's like a regional show or something like that, yes, of course we all want to win, right? Like, I mean, I turned pro, I won one overall, one. I won my class a ton, but I very rarely won an overall, right? And it's typically because there was always someone there that was really freaking good,
Yeah.
really good.
Well, like,
And
let
I
me
can
ask.
admit that there's nothing wrong with that, but I didn't look at that as a loss. I kept improving.
Yeah. And like, let me ask you guys this. I tend to find that when you have an athlete who, like, both you as a coach and the athlete, you guys know you are bringing their all-time best. Like you have left no stone unturned. They step on stage. Let's just say it is one of those instances, like you said, Evan, where there's a unicorn in their class and they end up placing, second or third, which is not terrible, but maybe they wanted first. But if that athlete knows, and like you as their coach, if you know that that was their all-time best, I feel like a lot of people find a lot more, just like they're a lot more content knowing, okay, even though I may have placed second or third, if it was their best and they know there is literally nothing else they could have done, they feel a lot more just at peace, even
Yeah,
despite the placing.
agree.
Most of
Yeah.
the time. Most of the time. I think
Yeah.
some competitors struggle with that, but I think over time, as you mature as an athlete, part of maturity in this sport is realizing, like, even if you bring your all-time best, you still can't control who shows up. So I think just being content with knowing you brought your all-time best, even if the placing isn't what you want, you just feel content knowing, well, there's really nothing else I could have done differently.
Oh, I've had some competitors, and one of the things that I love about the national shows is sometimes before you even get back to your room after prejudging, the pictures are up, right? Because they're
Yeah.
literally loading them. I literally had one of my competitors at Universe. She wasn't in the first call out, and I thought she had a physique that, potentially was worthy of doing well. She messaged me after prejudging. She's like, "Oh my God, coach, look at our pictures. Look how good I look. Look how much better I look. My glutes are full. My core is tight." And I'm like, yeah, and I was initially disappointed. I was like, man, I thought she was going to have a shot at this show. And then to hear that, where she's like, let's go, what's next? I'm like, cool. So that's really, I think, where I get concerned as a coach is like, I just don't want them to feel like their effort is not being rewarded. But when they can,
Yeah.
you guys have met Melanie.
Oh yeah,
Hmm.
love her.
Of
I
course.
mean, without a doubt, the best attitude around competing, loves the sport, loves to be around everybody, just wants to get better, takes it in stride when she does well and doesn't do well, and like it. So yeah, like not everyone can have that same attitude. And I've
Yeah.
often said expectations
Yeah.
She's awesome. And I
ruin.
I do feel like too, not all the time, but with like masters competitors or with competitors that are a little bit like, I'm not saying old, but like older, I feel like they do generally take the placings a little bit better than somebody who's maybe super young and I don't know, doesn't get a favorable placing. I think it just comes with time, that maturity. But let's talk a little bit about too, like just how you can improve your placing show to show, or just the concept of like
Yes.
learning something. You're always going to learn something new show to show. I was chatting with an athlete this past week about like her show experience, and we identified, hey, this is what you learned from this show. Maybe you didn't place how you wanted to, but there was a reason you did this show, and it was because you had to learn that valuable lesson, and now you learn that, you go into
Hmm.
the next show with that new lesson you
Yeah.
learned, right? So there's always something you can learn each show, whether it's a good experience or a bad experience at that show, that can feed into improving your placing over time.
Let's talk about the easiest things you can do.
Yeah.
1 week, one show. Hands down, the easiest thing you can do is fix your stage presence, either your posing, your tan, hair, makeup, suit, any of those things. You can literally have a 1 week turnaround and be a completely different
Yes.
athlete.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. Tan, it's funny because I think this would be kind of interesting. So I don't know if anybody's listening, let us know if you'd be interested in this because I was talking with a girl who she does the spray tans, and I think that like skin prep and just the tan is more important than people realize because I've seen some people with the tans and like their tan's really muddy or it's really splotchy or and sometimes not for nothing that has to do with like your skin pH and if you prepped your skin well or not. But yeah, that can make a difference. Like improving your
Yeah.
tan show to show. I mean, if you have a girl on stage who has a really muddy looking tan and then a girl on stage whose tan is perfect, like that's a simple, easy fix going from show to show.
It's
Yeah.
I wish we understood it because like Evan, your girl Brittany, like she's as pale as they get, but her tan just goes on so well. It's not
And
it's sometimes
yeah.
it's just individual based, you know.
And we have a process beforehand that I do with some of my lighter skinned athletes that are like translucent that we will do like a few days of pre-tanning before they go to
Hmm.
tan. There's other clients that I don't do that with. I don't. Um, and also it also depends how you apply that tan too, right? The pre-tan, if you're doing it yourself, if you gob it on or if you just spray it and wipe it. It's two very, very different looks on how people put tans on. And that's all things that you can learn from show to show, right? Look, if your tan was a little bit light, then maybe tan yourself before you go in and get sprayed. That's a simple fix, but you have to
Well,
think
so
about things like
the
that.
one thing I've learned about Protan over the years is 4 coats on one day does not look nearly as good as
No,
4 coats over 3 days.
not at all.
It layers and absorbs. You wake up, you can put another coat on, it'll get more rich. Whereas if you put one on in the morning and then 2 hours later put another one on, it almost like layers on top of
Yeah.
itself versus absorbing. So my favorite approach is definitely to put a coat on, say like Wednesday night, rinse Thursday, go about your business. Put a coat on Thursday night, rinse Friday, go about your business. And then by the time you put on your last coat or two, it's already so set in. You don't have to do much. You literally, as soon as that brush touches your skin, you're like, oh, there it is. It doesn't
It,
work that way with the same day stuff.
was probably the wrong audience to talk about with this type of thing, but as men, we probably get it. If you've ever used like wood stain and stained before, you want to do coats because it stains into the wood. And you don't
Hmm.
just dump it all on and rub it all in and get it this thick because it's going to get blotchy, it's going to soak up in weird spots. And when you tan yourself, you're literally just staining your skin. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
And you need to take the time to do it correctly. Trying to get it all done in a day is like
That's why I love
it's
the
like trying to
Protan
paint a
as a
whole
DIY
wall.
kit. And a lot of girls will be like, I'm so nervous to do it. And then
You're
every
not going to
time they're
mess anything up.
like, that's so easy. Why am I like, we were there at the gym on Thursday, Evan, and there was a hour and a half, 2 hour delay for tans because they were
Hmm.
tanning the people for finals at the same time. And so those girls were like missing meals. They were, obviously frustrated, but the girls that were self tanning, they were chilling. So experiment with it at a show where they have a tanner. So if you don't like the result, you can pay for a tan because despite what they
Yep.
tell you, they will take your money and spray you.
Yes.
Oh, I've done that before. I did that at Tampa Pro in 2023. I tried the DIY and I'm very, very pale and it just was not getting dark enough on me. And I literally ran down and I was like, can I
Yeah.
buy tanning last minute? And they're like, yes, of course. They're not going to turn down your money.
Yeah, I think it's smart to do. I like athletes do a combination of both, like pre-tan themselves and then go get sprayed by the same the show people if possible. And also a good thing to think about is just keep a little extra thing of like Protan Super Dark with you. So if your tan gets a little blotched up at night or something like that, you can kind of patch it up yourself. And it'll take a lot of that stress off you. Trust me. Then worrying, oh, geez, like my client Brittany had an issue with that where they rushed him out. They rushed him out and they layered on like a bunch of tan and they rushed her out. They didn't let her dry. And when she put her pants on, the pants band left a giant mark around her waist. And so instead, or she took a little bit of the extra Protan and just patted in and blended in. There was no issue with it.
Yeah.
But if she didn't have that, her whole head all night long would have been like, I wonder if this is going to be on. Is anyone going to be able to see this? Are they going to be able to fix it in the morning? It's just an extra layer of stress.
Yeah. Yeah. The tan is an easy fix. Makeup and hair
Yeah.
are easy fixes too, especially if, something goes wrong with makeup or maybe you attempted to do your own makeup and it just didn't pop as much on stage as it should have, or maybe you had a makeup artist who didn't quite execute what you wanted. I always say I've never had an issue with like, I know sometimes there are great makeup artists, sometimes there are others that aren't as great, but I've never had an issue. Like, usually what I'll do is I'll send a couple of looks to my girls beforehand, and I'll say, hey, I want you to show, like, usually I'll go on Be the Makeup Artist page and I'll screenshot a couple looks I like for that athlete and I'll send it to them, and I'll say, hey, I want you to show the makeup artist this look and tell them this is what you want. And generally, if they see a picture, they're going to be able to implement that. I think where it's a little bit more risky is if you just kind of go in and give the makeup artist like free reign. It's not always going to, turn out badly, but sometimes you may see your makeup afterwards and it's like, whoa, you don't like it, and you're afraid to tell them that you don't like it, and then you go on stage and you don't feel confident. That that feeds into your energy and your aura. So when in doubt, get a picture of inspiration that you like and show the makeup artist.
That's it. And I think show the makeup artist what the person looks like off stage.
Yeah.
The on-stage look is with the lights glaring, and it blends the makeup better, but you almost need to see what someone looks like off stage so you can see how much they make the eyes and lips pop, how they use the contouring, how they don't match the face to the tan. They just match the contouring.
That was a big part I was going to touch on too, is if you do a pre-tanning, make sure you tell the people that you do a pre-tanning before you go get sprayed, because a lot of times you'll end up a little bit lighter than a lot of the other athletes in the face, and it just looks weird.
Yeah. I'll say this. I feel like pretty rarely do I see somebody on stage where their makeup is just horrific, right? Like,
Yeah.
or like they got their face tanned or something. But it can the one thing I get concerned about, Lexi, is when I see a girl who I'm like, oh, that girl's really pretty, and then she puts on her stage makeup and I'm like, you're not as pretty anymore.
Yeah.
You should be
Yeah.
prettier.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
was gonna say it should be the opposite. I think the only like mistake I've seen with makeup, like more so recently at shows, is just girls maybe not having enough like pop, like with their makeup. Like, it just kind of looks like it just doesn't pop enough with like the contour or the eyes. Now, I'm not saying you need like these crazy, dark eyes, but like you want it to pop a little bit. And you're right, Paul. You should look prettier with your stage glam, not the opposite. Yeah, and I think hair is also another thing that, you could always easily improve upon show to show. I know some girls kind of struggle, especially if you're competing in like a humid climate, with like the frizziness of your hair. And I typically say on stage, like, you need to find what you're gonna like, whatever product you need to find, whatever ritual you need to do. Like, your hair should look nice and polished and like just smooth on stage, not like frizzy or dry or unhealthy. So that's something you could easily improve to going show to show within a week.
Yeah.
I tell you this, more than messed up makeup I've seen recently is just hair looking not good on stage, like at all. And I think having an idea about what looks good for your hair, you should know before you go in. Because if you just let them have free reign, they're going to pretty much do what they do to most people. And that doesn't mean it's going to look good on you. It doesn't. I mean, there's some girls I've seen on stage, not to be mean, but it looks like 1980s glamour shots with the hair. And it just does not look right at all. It just doesn't. It's too much and it takes away from it. Um, Sometimes less can be a little bit more when it comes to the hair. A lot of times I think it can. I think people overdo it sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think another thing with the hair is like, it doesn't necessarily matter the length. I think some girls think you have to have long hair, but I do think fullness goes a long way. So
Yeah.
like, if you have, even if you have naturally long hair, if you have like very fine or
And
thin hair, I would definitely consider getting some extensions. And hey, I'm by no means saying you have to like go out and invest like $500+ in extensions. I mean, you can honestly get a pair off of Amazon, but I do think some extensions for added fullness can go a really long way too.
agree.
I mean, it's common now for women to just have extensions for like nights out with the girls and like getting dressed up for, for social events. So getting some of that, it's not just for competition. You can use them.
Yeah, you can multi-purpose them for sure.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
actually
Wait
we
to
have there's finally what's the name of the sponsor
Oh,
for you, Lexi? Let's give her a shout out.
Oh yeah, I'll give her a shout out and I'll get a little shameless plug because I have a discount code. So Nixie Hair Extensions is owned by Carmen, and she's based out of Southern California, but she she has a salon out there and everything, but more so recently this year, she's been really like trying to reach more competitors. So
Mhm.
love her extensions. I have the clip-ins, and it's funny because I remember getting them like, oh gosh, 4 or 5 months ago. And I thought it was going to be this whole ordeal to put them in. And honestly, they're so easy to put in. They're human hair. So yeah, they are a little bit more expensive, but I mean, you can use them like the clip-ins, you can use them for nights out. Like it is literally, it takes 5 minutes to put them in too. So I do have a discount code. It's just my Instagram handle, LexiMate, but they're great. And she does also do I believe like free color matching calls. So if you're a little unsure of like what color you would be, you can just reach out to her on Instagram and set up a call.
And
Yeah.
another thing you can do too is if, let's say, you're getting your hair done before the show and you're going to get hair or color done, then just order your extensions that are close to your hair and bring them in, and they will color those along with your hair. I know a ton of people that have done that. They'll color it to match it, and that way everything is like literally perfect. So if you have that scheduled, just order those extensions beforehand, even if it's a month before the show, right? You can go ahead and get them done at that point.
All
Yeah.
right, so let's talk about the easiest, the absolute easiest thing you can do to fix your physique on stage, and that is posing properly, because the judges cannot judge what they can't
Yeah.
see. And especially if you're new to national shows, one thing I often see is the competitors that are in the first call out, or they're on their first group and they're on the edges. They do not adjust their posing as if they are on the edges. They're not used to being in a class of like, 9, 10 girls at the same time on stage. So when you are 5 people away from the head judge, they're posing straight towards the audience. And if you're at a judge and now you're looking at the physique at an angle, the shape disappears.
Yep.
Muscle looks odd. So it's very easy to pick up and just turn your physique properly. And maybe you were posing poorly before anyway, but fitting the criteria for the poses, hand positioning, foot positioning, understanding what the judges are judging the division on, in bikini in the front pose. At this point, it's shoulders, glutes,
Yep.
waist. It's that hourglass look. I definitely have noticed this year, in my opinion, they're looking for a lot more muscularity in the lower body, not just the glutes. They want
You're right.
quads, hamstrings to match the glutes, the shoulders in that front pose. It's a much more
Right.
athletic look. And I'm the girl that won the overall at Junior USA's. I remember being like, she had not even the top 4 glutes on the stage over the overall, which is what you used to do. They turn the back and you go, wow, look at those glutes. Her glutes were not the top 4, but her physique won her the overall, her legs, her shoulders. And she was a second time competitor. And she was one of those girls that had been training for years and just decided to compete. So her athleticness got her that win. But that's
Yeah.
understanding that is the biggest difference. And I think a lot of competitors wait till the end of prep. And I've heard them say this. When they go to pose, they'll go and they'll practice, they'll hit their pose once and be like, cool, I got it. You don't realize when you're on stage how many times you got to do that. There's no mirror. You've got the stress.
Yeah.
You've got to practice your posing,
Yeah.
especially at the beginning of prep when you got energy.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you,
Well, it's funny because I've actually started with some of my training programs with some of my girls that struggle with like hitting their front pose consistently, because that's something I really preach. Because I'll tell people, I'm like, hey, your front pose every week when you submit a progress picture, it's different in some caliber, and we have to work on getting this consistent, because at the end of the day, that's the first thing you do on stage, right? That's your first impression. But I've actually started building in some of my training plans, like on a fifth day, like posing reps, so to say, like at the very end, hit your front pose 10 times and hold it for 10 seconds just to work on that consistency aspect. But I think another thing when it comes to posing is not only like the positioning, obviously, but core control, right? I know, especially a lot of like
yeah.
masters ladies, if they've had babies, core control is big, guys. And a lot of people don't struggle with the core control as much when they're hitting like their front pose. But then the moment they start transitioning, they let that
Yes.
core come out. Or the moment they get moved on stage and they hear their number to move with another competitor, they let that core control go. And that is the judges notice that. That is not a good look. I mean, I think we've all been at a show before and seen somebody kind of let their core go. And I don't care how lean you are, as an individual, when you just relax your core, it's not going to probably be a flattering look, right? So core control is very important too.
Very true, Lexi. That is the truest thing that I could say, right? And I think a lot of girls at least these days, do, especially basketballers, you're right. They struggle with that core control. And a lot of times once they get in their pose, it's good. But the moment they transition out of it, it's like it just isn't anymore. And talking about the full body balance, Paul, that's something I think we notice in the fit model division too, is they have muscular quads, and just an overall balanced look. And you're right, they're going much more on that balance side. I have a random thing I just thought about with this. Why don't you think, or why do you think they have a straight line for posing and it's not a crescent
Well,
around the judges?
if
So
you've ever
everything they
promoted a
can look.
show, that would be near impossible. They'd have to have like a string from the head judge to the stage and then mark off, because that's how I teach competitors. Imagine there's a string
Mhm.
straight to the center, and then if you put a pencil on that string and you drew around, it would curve. That would be a
I,
lot of effort for a promoter to do.
I don't think it'd be that hard. Like you put it in the middle, you put it on the side, and just have the tape. It doesn't have to be a perfect
Yeah,
crescent, but I mean,
it's
it would. I think it would fix a lot.
well, but here's the other aspect of that, which they don't really want to focus on. It's not just the head judge, right? So technically, if there's a panel of 7 or 9
Yeah,
judges, you should be posing to the judge in front of you. But we all know
yeah.
the head judge moves people to the middle that they like better. I competed in organizations, and even in the NPC when I first started competing, they did not do that. So you didn't have to angle. When I first started competing, Evan, they would literally take all the competitors on stage, do a round, and then swap them.
Yeah.
My first show I did in bodybuilding, I won. I was nowhere near the middle. I was like second from the end at prejudging, and then I was second from the end on this side at prejudging. And when they were calling placings, they said in fifth, in fourth, in third, in second. I hadn't heard my name. I gave up. I was like, oh, I didn't get anything. And they're like, in first, Paul Revell. And I was like, holy crap, I won. I had no idea. I thought I
Yeah.
looked good, but when they start calling numbers, but back then you went to finals because you didn't know. Now
Yeah.
girls are like, oh, I wasn't in first callouts. They don't even show up for finals.
I know. I know. And I'm not even saying it needs to be like a big crest. I'm saying just a little slight
No,
turn.
I
I
think
think
it's
that would
a good
help.
idea. It's one of those things like if you're a show promoter and you start doing little things like that, people notice that stuff. Like
Yeah.
thinking of the athlete. But also, unless that's in the rules, that's going to be a problem,
Yeah. I'm
right?
more thinking that would have to be a rule
Because they're
change.
already
Yeah.
yelling at the men for moving up.
I know. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, another easy fix too, besides posing, I don't feel like this is something I see as much, but suits, like I would say in particular, a big thing I see girls doing is their bottoms, they'll pull those suit connectors, like I'm talking for bikini, not necessarily fit model, but they'll pull their bottom connectors way too high on their hip, which maybe it looks fine in their front pose, but then they turn around and it's like it elongates their glute. You guys know what I'm talking about? Like
Mhm.
where they'll pull those connectors up really high and then they turn around and it's like the fabric of the suit bottom is like sitting above their glute. It just makes their glutes look really like I don't know, really long. And I've heard even judges critique pros on this before. So you want to make sure your suit bottom sits right or that it fits right too. And some girls, coverage wise, their bottoms, they'll have maybe too little fabric or too much.
Yeah.
So that's something, and I know this sounds like such a little minuscule thing, but I mean, also, like if we're talking a national level show, these little details, they matter. And you would hate to be the person that's told, hey, you didn't get first because, oh, you know what, your suit bottom was a little wonky and it was making your glutes appear a certain way, right? Like these little things matter.
Yep. And if you have like low glute insertions, a little bit wider hips, sometimes there's a gap in the like underneath your hips where there's just no glute muscle because there's literally no muscle there. It's just not there. That's your structure. And you need a little bit bigger suit bottom. You don't need to get the micro smallest cut if it does not fit your physique. It doesn't. Why would you want to do that? That'd be like a guy going on men's physique stage that has twigs for legs, like way smaller than mine, making sure that he wanted the super, super tight ones on his legs. Like, why would you do that to show off something to make it look worse? Like,
Yeah.
just because everyone else does something or the majority of people do it doesn't mean you should do it.
Right. Right. I feel like another easy thing that you could fix very quickly, if you have like, let's say, a week's time frame between shows, and this goes back to what we were saying earlier, like you can learn something valuable from every show you do, but you can always improve like maybe your pump up strategy, right?
Yes.
So like I know I've had some girls, I've had conversations with people before about it's kind of show dependent and you don't know until you get there, but like backstage it can get really, really cold at some shows, right? And I know, like for me personally, but for a lot of girls, like when you're so low body fat, you're going to be very sensitive to that cold. And that can honestly make it very hard to get a pump, right? So, like something you could easily learn from that is come prepared backstage with, a blanket, a big fuzzy jacket, maybe even a portable space heater. That way you can preserve your body heat and you're able to better get a pump, or even just improving your pump up strategy with like eating something a little bit different or timing what you're eating a little bit different or pumping up different, right? Like there's all those little minuscule things you can kind
Mhm.
of troubleshoot, and you can't troubleshoot those things unless you've done shows before. So that's always something you can kind of learn show to show.
Honestly, yeah, I mean that's smart, Lexi. As I've just thought about this, like girls might want to start bringing like hand warmers backstage. Like that's a smart idea. I never really even thought about that.
Yeah.
Because if your hands are warm, your body stays pretty warm for the most part.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
I had some,
Universe was very cold backstage. I mean, shockingly cold. And so it was a nice day. It wasn't overly humid in Teaneck. So I had the competitors go outside and just
yeah,
come back in as soon as they felt warm. Just stand in the sun, get your body
yes.
temperature up. I don't think that's super typical, especially in the summer, but that place was freezing cold. Um,
Yeah, that's the worst when it's so cold. Like I would even recommend, like I just remember, so Tampa Pro. Oh my goodness. I remember that show was the absolute worst in terms of how cold it was backstage. Now, you guys know how obviously there's like the backstage upstairs and then they walk you down and
yeah,
then you're like behind backstage. So I remember 2 years ago, it's like the true backstage portion when they bring you down the stairs. It's like part of the kitchen of the hotel, and
yeah.
it literally felt like a meat locker. And I
Oh,
would
it
even,
is. I
yep,
think that's
it
where they have the
is.
fridges.
yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I would even recommend, because they we were standing back there for quite some time. I would even recommend, like, as if you're a competitor, just bring like a disposable cheap blanket that you can like just bundle up with backstage just to preserve that body heat. Because if you're freezing and you're shivering, not only are you running through your food a little bit quicker, but like you're not going to be able to get a pump at all. But like it's little things that you learn that stuff over time. Like you just can more effectively improve your pump up strategy. So that's another easy way you could, improve going on to stage.
Yep. Well, those are the quick fixes, right?
Yeah.
Posing properly, fixing your tan, hair, makeup, stage presence. Sometimes even just doing a second show because you're not so stressed. You know how the day is going to run. You're much more relaxed. You make more eye contact with the judges. Those are the quicker fixes. Let's talk briefly about the more challenging fixes. The next easiest one would be if you're not lean enough. Okay, because losing body fat is going to make you look more muscular, um, and it's going to give you the appearance of what we call the naked eye test. Like the leaner you are, the more people are drawn to your look. um, so that's something that can be fixed in as short as a week or a few weeks, or depending on how you peaked. Maybe you peaked poorly. I did a reel on my Instagram page a little bit ago. I had an athlete who I peaked her. She did a show without me. She reached out to me, gave me like 4 or 6 weeks, and we got a little bit leaner, but I peaked her differently. I kept her water in, I filled her out, and she went from like not placing to winning. And the difference in the visuals was drastic. She looked like a different person. So conditioning and leanness can also come down to how you peak for stage legs.
Absolutely, absolutely. And even like cortisol too can feed into that too. Like if somebody is really stressing themselves out leading into a show, that can also cause like a film of water above, on their physique, and that can just make them look softer than they really are. So like I know that's something like I'm always working on just in life in general is like just stress management, stress perception. But yeah, peaking strategies can make the physique look leaner. I don't know about you, Paul, but do you ever find that sometimes, like after a competitor does their first show, it's like they almost kind of like, especially if they were almost stage lean, maybe they weren't quite stage lean, but they were almost stage lean. Do you ever find that it's like this hyper metabolic state after that first show where it's like they just start running through food a
Oh
lot
yeah.
quicker. I don't know if it's the cortisol dump that like came off, like I don't know what it is, but I find that that is the case with a lot of competitors, especially if they don't go like too
Yeah.
crazy post show. I mean, that doesn't happen for the people that usually stuff their face for 2 days after the show, but I find that
Oh
there's
no.
this like hyper metabolic phase post show where it's like
Most, yeah.
all clients are like, coach, I don't know what's happening, I'm eating all this food and like my weight's the same, my weight's dropping, what is going on?
It's a forced diet break.
Yeah.
You have to. Like when you reduce that inflammation, you bring food up. Like that's why we do diet breaks at times, right?
Well, I mean, this is actually where I started coming up with my philosophy of diet breaks because I started noticing my competitors always looked their best at their second, third, or fourth show. And then the one commonality between that is in peak week, I'm bringing the food up, the cardio down, they're going out, they're having a free meal. Then they're getting right back on their approach, especially if we're like, hey, we need to be a pound or two leaner. We're going right back to the grind
Yep.
and they're just dropping. And so it just occurred to me like, why in God's green earth am I waiting till peak week to give them a peak week? So now a lot of times when my competitors are at the end of prep, it's 3, 4, 5 really hard days, low food, lots of cardio, and then 2, 3 days of backing off. And that strategy works a lot better than if you're just always in the shit, if you're
Yep.
always grinding yourself down, because that's what competitors want to do. Coach, I did all this cardio, low calories, and I didn't drop. Let's go harder. And sometimes you got to go, that's not going to work. You're just going to dig the hole deeper and you're not going to be able to progress. Let's take a couple recovery
Yeah.
days. So yeah, that's competing can be the best thing for competing.
I had a conversation with one of my athletes about that on should we do the first show we had planned? And I told her, I was like, we will be fine to do this first show, but you will improve into your next one. She's like, well, no, I just want to push off and wait till the next one because I want to be all the way there and better. I was like, listen, I understand that, but there's some benefit to doing this because we're going to springboard off this into the next. Now we're not going to do that. We're going to just wait till the next show, but we're going to work some diet breaks in to that plan to pretty much almost mimic that situation we did, just where she won't get on stage. And to talk about the cortisol thing and filling out and that film of water, so true. I mean, one of my clients at Universe this weekend got hit with that, and she lost stomach control and looked washed out because of it. And it can ruin an entire look, entire physique. It can ruin all of that. So I remember I was going through a hard time for my pro debut, a lot of transitions in my life at that time. And I remember I was talking with Nick. Nick Walker was helping me. And, as I was coaching myself, but he was, springboard to bounce off of, things off of. And he was like, try not to stress. I was like, just tell me to be taller. Right. Like it's an impossible thing to try to do, but do your best. Do your best. And
Yeah.
the best thing is eliminate things you know they're going to cause you stress.
Yeah, I think, and that's something I think that every competitor can attest to. You get better at that over time. You start to
Yep.
realize, ooh, all right, I realized the last show I did, this caused me more stress than I thought. Like, I think a great example is everybody is different in terms of some people, like, they like to keep to themselves on show day. They like to be alone,
Mhm.
but that helps them. And there is nothing wrong with that. Some people are the opposite. Some people like to have people around them to keep them distracted. But like for some people, that's really stressful. So I think you learn going show to show. Like, I think we've talked about this before. Sometimes maybe don't invite 20 different people to come watch you at your first show, right? That may just stress you out, right? So you learn little things like that over time. And you also may learn like every competitor is different. Some competitors learn over time that they need to stay at the host hotel. That keeps their stress low to be at that primary spot. For some people, they don't want to be at the host hotel because they don't want to be around all the, just the hurrah and all the other competitors. Then maybe they stay in an Airbnb so they have that quiet space, right? Like you learn over time what works best for you, and that's going to be different, athlete to athlete, but it's what you can identify is going to allow you to have the best experience and allow you to keep your cortisol and your stress at bay.
Yeah,
What
I
one
think
tip I want to give everyone out there that has a competitor too, that's competing or that you think they're going to win or they're going to have a good show, or let's say after prejudging, and let's say it's a national show and maybe they're in one of the middle spots or top two spots, don't go up to that competitor and be like, congratulations, you got it, you won, you won. Don't do that. Please don't do that. Um, there was
Yeah.
a few competitors this weekend that, they're like, I think I got it. I'm like, well, just chill, just wait. Like, just wait,
Yeah,
just wait.
that's tough. And also, I know we've talked about this before, it's been a while, but also after a competitor show, like I know that there's no bad that comes from this, but like try to refrain from, unless the competitor's actually sharing, like, oh, I got first place or oh, I got third place. Like, don't be that person that's like, what place did you get? What place did you get? Right? Like some people, if they don't share their placing, maybe they need some time to let that kind of just soak in. And sometimes the worst thing that you can do as like a support system or as a friend or a family member is, like ask that person, what place did you get? What place did you get? Like they'll share if they want to.
Mhm.
I think a better question is like, did you enjoy the show? That's a
Yeah.
better question if you're wanting to like
Yeah.
ask the competitor how the show
How did it go?
yeah,
That's what
how
I
did
asked.
it
How'd it
go?
go?
Did you enjoy the experience? What did you learn? Things like that, right? Not just what place did you get, right? Because like I know that when people ask that question, it does not stem from a bad spot, right? But like
No.
if you're a competitor and you had high hopes for the show, you didn't place how you wanted, like you almost feel like you're not that you are, but you almost feel like you're letting other people down when you're like, oh, I didn't place, right? So yeah, just don't ask that question unless the competitor shares it openly.
100%. Yeah, and don't put pressure on yourself that you can't handle. Don't agree to if you're competing, be the diva. Don't
Yes.
give people rides, don't get people tickets. Let them figure it out. They're adults. Like, yeah, where is the show? Listen, that's let them Google that crap. Like it's the super information is available. So if someone's like, "Oh, what time should I be there?" Like just let them know this is when the show starts. Like don't put that pressure on yourself to be like worried about what everyone's doing that day. You've got a job to do.
Yeah.
Um, so that's definitely something that we've worked with competitors that have gone through that where they're like, I'll be like, yeah, I don't know if we're going to be ready for this show in 3 weeks. Let's push back. Well, I have my whole family coming.
Yes.
Oh, okay then. Here's what we're going to do. Right? Like you can't, so
Yep. Yep. And I think another thing I want to touch on briefly too about like improving show to show. So sometimes, and I know we've talked a little bit about this in past episodes, but you'll get feedback as a competitor from a judge of like, hey, you need a little bit more muscle, right? And a lot of people when they hear that, they may feel a little defeated, like, ugh, all right, that means I need to stop my season and just grow, right? But there are some cases, and this is something that your coach will know, because your coach knows you as an athlete, knows what you're capable of. There are some cases where you could get an athlete who gets the feedback of you need to have more muscle or you need to be like more muscular, where you can take that same athlete and actually get them leaner and then fill them out more aggressively going into the next show, and it appears that they have more muscle than they do. And then the judge sees them the next show and they're like, oh my gosh, you put on so much muscle. What have you done? Right. When it's like, you really haven't added a ton of mass. It's just you got leaner and you filled out more. So that can be something that you also implement to improve show to show, if that is your said feedback.
Yeah. And look, also to piggyback off that, sometimes getting leaner is not the answer.
Yeah.
If you
Oh,
lack the muscle, getting leaner is going to hurt your placing. It's not going to help it. Um, Depending on what we're talking about here, right? And everyone wants to chase that glued ham, like that's everything they want to chase. But if you do not have the muscle to support it, you will place worse. You will
yeah.
place worse in the vast majority of cases.
Yeah, that's a very great point. Yeah, because yeah, there are some competitors, especially newer competitors, who just don't have as much of a muscular foundation. And I think that's why Fit Model is so great, right? Because a lot of bikini girls do struggle to get that glued ham tie-in, and it's like to see any little bit of that, they almost have to just get so tiny to the point
Yeah.
where they don't even look like a bodybuilder, right? Like that's not going to be rewarded on stage too. You may see that tie-in, but if that means you look like a string bean up top and your muscle is not there and there's no pop, like that's not going to help your case either, right? So yeah, that's a great point. Sometimes getting leaner is not the answer either.
And I'll tell you this, I was very impressed with the Fed model division at Universe and what the rewarding and the look they're going for. Big fan of what they're
I'm,
doing
I'm
now.
telling you, I've had a couple girls, reach out to me recently and be like, yeah, my coach doesn't want to coach fit model. And I'm like, well, it's bikini. Like it's not a new division. It's bikini. They're just pulling back the standards.
Yeah.
So like to not want to coach that is odd to me.
Well,
Because when you see it in person, the girls that look good when they walk out, you're like, damn, that girl looks
yep.
awesome. Like
How many times,
great
Paul, when they
tight
walked out?
cores, great muscle fullness, beautiful. Like it reminds me of going to bikini shows in 2016, 2017.
Mhm.
the talent is the talent, and the pro bikini division at this point has become a much more muscular, I want to call it bodybuilding division, because it's literally when they hit a pose, you just scan down the aisle and go, who's the biggest, who's got the most muscle, and that's the winner. Um, Whereas with the fit model, that's not the case. Now it's shape, beauty, muscle, balance, all blended. And it's, yeah.
Mhm.
So I know it's called fit model, but it's bikini. Literally
Yeah.
look at the winners that are winning the pro cards in bikini right now. Go look up 2016 NPC national shows. It's the same front
Yeah.
pose, the same back pose. Um, and not for nothing, there was 91 competitors at Universe in fit model. 91 individual
Yep.
competitors.
And how many times, Paul, when there was a few occasions they walked out, both their eyes went to one person, and they ended up winning. Like it's
Yeah.
a
Yeah.
look, it is, and I'll tell you this: these girls, they were leaner, I think, than they've been rewarding in a good way. They weren't like hard or striated, and the way it looks to me is this is like bikini without all the anabolics thrown into it, all the crazy amount of anabolics. That's kind of the route that it kind of looks like.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna, and I think that's where you see the faces start to change. You know, the pro bikini division, the faces are starting to change. The voices have
Yeah,
obviously changed. The fit model, I hope it doesn't go that direction, you know.
yeah.
But we'll see. You know, like this is bodybuilding. People are going to do what they want to do. But I think if they want to grow that area of the sport, they've got to keep it from turning into that.
And
They've got to
I was
protect that. And
impressed with
so
the
far,
physiques.
yeah, so far, very impressed. And it's just like, you know, when my first pro card was like 2014 and then 2015 and 2016. And what I realized was they start the season rewarding a little bit of a softer look, and then as the season go on, it gets harder and
Yep,
harder. And it's already happening with Fit Model.
yep,
It's literally like, you know, history repeating itself. The physiques that won at Universe were a lot harder than the physiques that won at Junior USA's. So you're
Yeah.
seeing the progression unfold
yeah.
right like a normal
Hmm.
season. Whereas in bikini, it's not the case anymore. The girls that are hard at the beginning of the season, they're still the hard girls at the end of the season and getting rewarded. And if you soften up or get too hard, you're not going to get placed well. But um, I'm not seeing a huge difference in bikini judging criteria, but Fit Model has progressed a little bit.
I'll say I think too. I heard a lot of people comment on the universe photos, be like, "That's bikini, that's bikini." None of those
Yeah.
girls would have been remotely close. I'm talking about in bikini now on the national stage. They would
Mhm.
have got a sniff of it.
I
It
think
was
some of the
not
girls
this
could have been
the same
potentially in
look.
the first call outs and got a look, but
It's a
they
different
had
look.
such great natural shape and a
Yeah.
good amount of muscle. But no, nobody from Fit Model would have turned pro in bikini. No.
No. And yes, I think there was a lot of talk too. I saw about like the cap delts. There was some girls with cap delts that won, but they were not striated. They were not hard. They were none of that. It was cap because they have shoulders,
Yeah,
right?
same thing with the
That's
glutes.
it.
They have tie-ins
Yes.
because they
They
have
had tie-ins
muscle.
because they have muscle.
Right.
They're not dieted down to where you can see their hamstrings.
No.
Yeah.
Like
And
there's
I
no
think,
hamstring, there's glute ham there. You see it. You see it. It's there
Yeah.
because they have the muscle to support it. Like it's a muscular division.
yeah.
And I think this is where you got to be full on stage. You cannot be
Yep.
flat. You will not look good.
Mm.
Yeah, and I heard a lot of that too. And then like people were asking me, they're like, "What do you think about, Fit Model? It looks like it's getting bigger." But I also feel like there's something to be said for if you're not there in person, you really shouldn't be making assumptions because we all know somebody can look vastly different in person. Even compared to like the GoCo videos are amazing, right? But like if you are not there in person, it's definitely a very different look when you're there in person.
Yes. And the shape of the girls is very good. Like I really like the look of where they're going with it. I'm a fan of it. I really am. It's taken me a minute to kind of like see because I wanted them to get a little more conditioned and a little bit harder. Not just not bikini hard, but just a little bit more. And I think at this show they did a really good balance of judge or of rewarding that. I'm a
Well,
big
and
fan
like
of it.
last thing on that topic too, like it kind of makes sense as to why Fit Model is getting a little bit maybe leaner because I mean, when you think about it, what this division was announced in December. So the girls that maybe did this division earlier in the year, they barely had any time to prep for this division, right? So of course they probably were not going to be as lean as some of these girls we're seeing now. So like it kind of makes sense with when the division was announced and like between then and where we're at now in the year.
What do you think it's going to be like, Paul, towards the end of the year with Fit Model? I think it'll be similar to what it is now, or even more conditioned than it is.
I think it's going to be pretty similar. I think
Yeah.
it's starting to get to where they're going to have to start drawing a line, because
Yeah.
there was a girl that I thought looked great, but she was a little too hard and she didn't place well. And I thought, okay, that's a good sign, because what you don't like is when there's a girl that's a little too hard and she beats everybody but the winner, right? So
Yeah.
that's where, I think the pro bikini division got a little wonky. Was like, yeah, you're rewarding the winners, but you're putting these girls with full quad striations and bigger jaws than mine in third, and all the girls are like, oh, that's what I got to do. And I think with Fit Model, what they have to do is they have to make sure that they don't ever reward girls. If there's a comparable girl, one's overly conditioned and one's a little bit soft, if they start recording that overly conditioned girls,
Yep.
because this is bodybuilding, and people are competitive and they want to, and that's where pro bikini went. Girls that don't have the natural shape, don't have the natural muscle, we're like, okay, what do I have to do to beat these girls?
Yep.
That's when they went down this path to go, okay, and good for them. They did the thing they had to do to win, but they've also, like, I don't know, is there any doubt in anybody's mind anymore that the bikini division is shrinking? Like, I've had somebody come up to me at a show and be like,
No.
I heard somebody say bikini's not isn't shrinking, and I go, well, I mean, at certain shows, like at the St. Pete show, yeah, it looked great. There was like 70 girls there, but then we go to nationals and there's 40 less competitors at a national show in bikini than last year. In 1 year, 40 less. And Universe was the smallest it's ever been, 130 in open bikini. We'll see. We'll see at USA's. USA's is 3 weeks away. We'll see how that translates. But
Yeah.
I think by next year, it's going to be 50-50 bikini Fit Model.
100%
I could
think
see
that's the
that for
case.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
I
and if
think,
you remove the Masters division from it, Fit Model is going to be way higher.
yeah. And I think
Yeah.
people, honestly, I think there's still a lot of people this year that are not like they want to do Fit Model, but they're kind of waiting to like get this first year out of the way of like
Yeah.
the new division, and then they're going to do it next year when it's a little bit more like clearly defined. And honestly, I've had so many athletes that at the beginning of the year when Fit Model was announced, they were like, "No, I don't like that division. I want to do bikini."
I
And
get it.
now
I get it.
they're the same people that are like, "All right, I like this division. I want to try it out." Right. So I think there's a lot of people
Mhm.
that are kind of going through that like epiphany too.
It's
Yeah.
the same
And
thing that happened when bikini and men's physique came
Yeah.
out. Every guy looked at men's physique and like, pfft, and every girl that was a serious bodybuilder was like, I'm not doing bikini.
yeah.
But over time, you see it in person and you go, oh, I can respect that. They're working
Mhm.
hard. They look great. And I saw a really young girl turn pro at Universe. I don't know how young she was, like 19, 20.
Oh, was it the Fit
Mhm.
Model?
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. She was like, well, so far, like the youngest Fit Model competitor. Yeah. I mean, I could see that happening, especially if it's
I don't know
somebody.
if that's true. Daniela's pretty young. But anyway, um, but the point being, that's good for the sport. You get 18, 19, 20-year olds coming into the
Yeah.
sport. That's how bikini grew. Like,
It,
Yeah.
and the cool thing is the mass when it comes to the or the fit model division too, I think some of these 35, 38, 40-year olds can stand next to these 22, 21-year olds too and be rewarded, which is bikini. It's different a little bit. But I think they'll be able to in the fit model. And I mean, I have a client now that I'm trying to talk into a fit model because I think she'll walk in and win an overall. And she's like, no, my heart's not in it. I don't want to do that. I want to do bikini. And I'm like, well, we're
yeah,
gonna we're gonna struggle to get a decent placing in bikini, but
that's
you
yeah,
could
but
walk in here and win. But
that's
they don't want to do it.
and that's fine. I had girls,
Completely
early in
fine.
my career that were like, I don't want to do bikini. I like figure. I'm like, cool, great. All right, let's finish on. So we've gone easiest things you can do to change. Now
Mhm.
let's obviously talk about the most challenging that you're not going to change in a few weeks, and that's add muscle.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's hard for, I mean, I think it's person dependent. Some people really like the idea of like, wow, okay, I'm ready to go into a building season. But I think some competitors really struggle too with like, especially if maybe they start the season intending on doing several shows and then maybe they do that second show and like making that decision to go into their building season a little bit early. That can be hard for them. But I mean, I don't know, not for nothing. The building season is fun. That's where the magic happens. Like your prep just basically exposes the type of improvement season or building season that you had, right? So like prep is not where you're going to make those ample changes to your muscularity if you're natural, of course. But yeah, that's going to be obviously the hardest feedback to implement on in the short term.
Yeah, it's grow, grow, baby, grow, right? And it's how hard and how disciplined you can be in an off season. Well, that will completely translate over to stage. And look, and a big part of this, everyone, and I know I harp on this, is you can do everything right. If your training intensity is not there, you will not improve. Just because that says 3 sets of 10, there's a big difference between just doing, okay, I did my 10 reps and checking that box, and actually going to failure at a specific point. It doesn't have to be all the time, but your body doesn't know. It's a conversation I have all the time. Your body does not know the sets and reps of the weight you're doing. It only knows its relationship to failure. That's all it knows. And you have to find that. If you want to progress, the training is such a big, big part of this, people. It's huge.
Yeah. Well, muscle building is a rate limiting process, right? You can only add muscle at a given rate. You go to the gym, you have a great workout, you eat, you have great nutrition. Even if everything's perfect, it's still going to be incremental. And for my natural athletes, they don't even really get to see the changes until they diet down the next time.
Yeah.
I have a young lady, Allie, she just checked in with me yesterday and she was a little disappointed because the number on the scale is not where she wants it. But I said, let's pull up your pictures from last year at 11 weeks out to this year. And she was like, oh my God. She looks like a completely different human being, but you won't see yourself like that. You see yourself in the mirror. So when she pulled these pictures up, completely changed her like tone and she was so excited, right? But it's hard to see that until you get that body fat off, right? So muscle building takes time. Now you can shorten that time by using anabolics, which we've seen. Like you can make incredible progress, depending on how quickly you want to use anabolics. I prefer to be much more conservative with their usage, so we're not getting any negative consequences for females, which you're still going to make progress, just not at the same rate. But you can do it intelligently and make a ton of progress as well. So that's where, like, you guys were talking about, like, if your feedback is they want you fuller, that means usually they want that muscle group fuller. That can be peaking.
Yeah.
And if you've got as lean as you can get to fit the division and you've been as full as you can get and they want you fuller, that means take a year, grow, put the time in the gym. It will be worth it, because once you have it, you can do what Ashley K does and just pop in and pop out of shows whenever you want and win. She's got the muscle.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And at the end of the day, I know we've heard this before, but guys, it's the sport of body building, right? Like it's not the sport of body dieting all the time, right? Like you should be spending more time outside of prep than in prep. So, keep that in mind too.
I think that's a good one to end on.
I think so too. Yeah. And hopefully this was a helpful one for you guys. And I know we've said it before, but guys, we love when you tag us on Monday mornings when you're listening. It really means a lot to us. So if you're listening to this on Monday or whenever, tag us on Instagram. We love to see who's listening, who's learning. So yeah.
Let's do it.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you guys. Thank you again one more time to Reaction Energy Drinks. I went and followed them. They're doing some good stuff now, and I like their products. So
Yeah.
all right, guys.
Pass down an energy drink.
Have a great Monday, and we are announcing a free seminar August 9th in Fort Lauderdale coming up soon. It might already be out. We're going to create a sign-up sheet for it.
Perfect.
Later,
Bye,
y'all.
guys.
See ya.